On this week's program, Grand DM asks grand questions with less than grand implications. B-Dubs puts the prime reason the BroSR is not a reliable source on full display. Rump DM reminds us all what irony looks like. Brandon Lee Mulligan may be able to helm Critical Role, but basic math beats him every time. And Pointy Hat proves to be pointless. Hello everybody, I am Daniel. Welcome to Driving and Dragons, and this is Intelligence is a Dump Stat. Here we all join together and share in the time-honored tradition of dunking on the worst of the worst hot takes in the TTRPG world for the week. This week I'm adding a special shout-out section to the video. Anyone who drops a super thanks or super sticker during the week will get their shout-out here, and I will be adding an end card to thank patrons and members either later this week or on next week's Intelligence is a Dump Stat. I just want to run a quick poll over on Patreon to make sure that everybody's cool with me posting their names as they appear on Patreon over here. So here is a big thank you to Agile Monk for being the first super on the channel, throwing $9.99 into the car fund. And a big thanks to all my Patreon backers. You know who you are. Car fund is growing day by day, and I'm excited to move away from driving footage back to more restoration footage, and I'm even more excited to get one day closer to giving that car away to one lucky supporter here on the channel. Until then, show your love with a membership, one of those super thingies that YouTube has, or pledge over on Patreon. If you just want to let me know that you're enjoying the content, hit the like button, share the video, and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And regardless of how you feel, make sure you leave a comment. I love seeing lively civil discussion and debate in the comments, and we have a tremendous amount of TTRPG experience here. And if you just want to complain about an AI thumbnail or something, or about me being a big meanie poo-poo head to your favorite 5e tour guide, the algorithm loves that. So by all means, treat it like an airport and pretend you arrived just so you can announce your departure. So, let's not make the t-shirt a liar and get with stupid. We opened the festivities with a couple of questions from Grand DM over on X. He had a couple of engagement farming posts this week that were not necessarily idiotic in and of themselves, but definitely implied some rather half-baked ideas. One asked, why does complexity hold our attention? Stating that crunchy systems sound good on paper, but that groups are short on time and play infrequently and forget rules. The implication, of course, is that complex rule structures in games with complex mechanical designs are inferior to rule systems that are light in practice because they, as they say, ain't nobody got time for that. The highlight is one of the major failings of the anti-crunch argument. It assumes that crunch must be omnipresent. It assumes that you will slow down play and it will lead to a lot of hand-waving and half-playing because of the investment, the time investment that's needed to play the game using the rules. And it also ignores the myriad of issues that rules-light games cause by square pegging every round hole simply to avoid crafting a round peg. Here's the thing about crunch. It isn't the amount of crunch in your system that makes it good or bad. It's where the crunch is placed. A great example is Call of Cthulhu. It's a very crunchy game. It has very robust mechanics and systems for virtually any contingency. However, nearly all of the rules-heavy application happens on the character sheet between sessions. By using things like derived stats and complex skill mechanics, the actual in-session gameplay is made incredibly simple and intuitive. I believe the word we're looking for here is elegant. It is an elegant system where the crunch runs quietly in the background, leaving a clean, easy-to-understand active and playing environment in session when no one wants their fun interrupted by someone digging around in a rulebook. In a similar vein, Grand also asked why we design so much gear that no one uses. Some RPGs offer dozens of weapons and armor options, but at most, those tables only have they only see a handful of play for a lot of these things. And it's funny that he previously threw shade at crunchy systems because, like everything in TTRPGs, gear stats are an abstraction, and the more abstract you get, the less detailed the reality. To truly account for the nuance and intricate advantages and disadvantages of various weapons requires a system that is detailed and complex enough to reflect them. As a result, there is almost always an objectively superior option, and while players pound the gates and beat the tables to demand options and choices, they really only want the options and choices so that they can confirm that they made the best choice by pointing at all the lesser options that they didn't choose. If you want to break players of this habit, there's an easy way. Stop customizing loot for your players. Paladin uses a longsword? Guess what? This loot included an awesome magic poleaxe. Now you have to make a choice. And now, like Virgil, moving deeper into the inferno, we cross the limbo of the poorly thought out questions through gates that read, "Abandon sense, all ye who enter here." Yes, we enter the hell of stupidity and are greeted by none other than B-dubs of the BroSR. I've said it many times in many ways. The primary issue with the BroSR philosophy is the zealous and militant one true wayism. Their idiotic shtick and constant trolling are annoying, as is their colossal conceit. But it is their critically flawed gaming philosophy that makes them truly moronic. Now, I do have to issue the standard BroSR disclaimer here. This does not evenly apply across the group, and in fact, it doesn't really apply to most of the rank-and-file players in BroSR games. This is about the vocal influencer accounts and the media presence of the leadership within the BroSR. So what did B-Dub say this time? Well, someone asked about getting back into D&D and was wondering if 1E or 2E was the better way to go, expressing fond memories of 2E, but also saying that 1E gets the lion's share of OSR love online. So what did B-Dub say? Similar to Daft Punk's Da Funk, 1E is like the cosmos opened up and a muse appeared to tell Gygax exactly what to write. 2E, meanwhile, is terrible in every single way. Yes, divinely inspired and perfect. That's why Gary was constantly fixing it and changing it to make up for all of its shortcomings. That's why Dragon Magazine was littered with ways to fix first edition. 2E has its primary failings in the supplements that were added after the core rules were released, and it's by no means terrible, and in fact, it's largely compatible with 1E. There's no sense in belaboring the point here. AD&D was great. It was the seed from which the TTRPG tree grew. But it is also a flawed work with numerous glaring shortcomings on a very objective level, and the fact that the bros treat it like scripture borders on idolatry. Continuing through the levels of BroSR idiocy, we find channel favorite Rump DM. I'm beginning to think that the SR in BroSR has a meaning, like bro, seriously retarded. This time, however, idiocy is not the only I word I found in a bro comment. This time we also get irony. Sandy Peterson replied to a post, "Nope, never have. I designed 2 RPG systems on my own, though, and got awards both times." What he responded to is irrelevant. It's Rump's reply that matters. He quoted Peterson and replied with, "Someone used the award Wojak meme." He is, of course, referring to the bronze medal meme, where the guy on the podium is celebrating in obnoxious fashion, only for it to zoom out and show him celebrating third place, while first and second are standing there respectively, or respectfully, rather. Aside from the fact that Call of Cthulhu is probably more widely played than AD&D 1E in the States, and is more popular than any Dungeons & Dragons edition in more than one country, look who's talking here. Sandy Peterson designed a game that launched an entire publishing company and has endured for decades. The BroSR developed a free PDF that they can barely give away. Rump is the guy who failed and made backup squad on his middle school football team. and then sits around telling everybody how a Division I linebacker doesn't know how to read a QB. But this is the lack of awareness that the BroSR breeds, folks. Moving to the opposite side of brainless, we abandon the religious devotion to AD&D purity and travel to the tourist trap of Critical Role, where Brandon Lee Mulligan has taken over Matt Mercer's seat as pretend Dungeon Master. I've always said that we don't really know if Mercer is a good DM or not because all we have ever seen is him pretend to be a DM on a scripted improv show designed to entertain viewers, not players. But given Mulligan's interview on 2nd edition, we can see that he is both a liar and a bad DM. He rose to fame as the Temu Matt Mercer over on Dimension 20, otherwise known as Great Value Critical Role. In a recent interview, talking about his new role running Daggerheart for the Critical Role cast, he was telling the host about how he dodged a bullet not having to live through playing D&D in the 2E days, saying that the host, being younger, dodged that bullet. Yes, Mulligan told all about how awful it was to play D&D back in the 2E days. As if he knows. Maybe that's why he was completely unable to explain how THACO works and failed miserably to do basic math on a live interview. Because his experience playing D&D during the dark ages of 2E would have taken place when he was 2. Mulligan was born in 1988. 2E launched in 89. It ended officially in 2000, but let's be real, it largely died in 96-97 during the Wizards of the Coast buyout of TSR. So I guess Brendan should get a pass on his failure to handle basic subtraction, since he apparently was playing 2E as a 5-year-old. This is a clear example of someone pretending he knows what he's talking about by parroting stuff that he read online from other people who didn't bother to look into the topic first either. I used to say Critical Role couldn't get much worse. I was wrong. We traded Matt Mercer, a generally nice and likable host, for an egotistical douchebag who can't be bothered to do even the most basic research on what he's supposed to be an expert on. This is why we gatekeep, folks. Rounding out the week, we go over to nowhere. We stay right here on Driving and Dragons. I posted my chaotic good alignment breakdown last week, and the funniest thing happened. YouTube recommended a brand new video called Alignment is Garbage and How to Fix It from massive D&D YouTuber Pointy Hat. I was intrigued. A 5e tour guide posting a video on my pet topic, which obviously held all the markers of him proving why no one should ever take advice on gaming from him. I had to check it out. But wait, why not share it with my viewers? A true blue reaction video, so I did. And it was a punishing effort. Setting aside stylistic choices like his inclusion of a bunch of music video clips and other distracting nonsense, Pointy Hat proceeded to lay out one of the single worst videos on alignment that I have ever had the painful displeasure to witness. I'm talking 34 minutes of him managing to get absolutely everything wrong, right down to using examples that were supposed to illustrate his point and only served to prove him further wrong. It was bad. Rarely have I seen a comment section where everyone agrees on alignment. My alignment videos have some of the best and most nuanced arguments about alignment posted below them because the people who take time to comment on my videos may not agree, but by and large, they come correct with their arguments for or against any topic, really. But this time the vote was unanimous. This guy's an idiot. Even the guy who showed up just to whine that I was mean in the first 5 minutes and tell me that he wasn't going to sub or watch anymore pointed out that he expected any take on alignment to be better than Pointy Fakes. So, Pointy Hat, congratulations on convincing enough people into subscribing to make a career out of this, but honestly, players could get better advice from Jenny D. At least that tour guide bothered to read the info pamphlet before grabbing the mic at the front of the bus. That's all for this week, folks. To quote the Bard, hallelujah, holy shit, where's the Tylenol? I'll see you guys next time.